All right, good evening, and welcome back to JPCE Spiritual Talk. It's Chair Campbell. So this evening, explosive developments, NATO casualties, Ukraine-China talks, drone strikes, EU tensions, Israel airstrikes, and Indian Navy fire. We're also towards the end. We're going to talk about Greece and Turkey, how there's tensions escalating out there in the Aegean Sea, and that's towards the end. But before we get in to these stories, start out by asking the Lord, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to ask Christ, my God, without you, I can do nothing. Please help me with this task that I'm about to complete. Keep me truthful, keep me honest, keep me objective to the facts, the sources. And always keep me as the apple of your eye. Thank you for everything you've done throughout all of our lives. And great is truly your faithfulness. And we pray all of this in your holy name, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever. Sages. Amen. Lord, our shepherd. All right, so let's jump in this. Make the screen shared over. We're going to start out by talking about 50 dead NATO military advisors. All right. So as I'm sharing the screen over, right, this is interesting stuff. So on your screen, you see a headline, right? It's from War News 24/7. And it talks about 50 dead NATO military advisors. Russians showed video strike against Westerners in Kharkiv. This will be the fate of all Westerners who find themselves on Ukrainian soil. All right, so, I read quite a few other sources as well, right? And so what is happening is that a recent missile strike by the Russian military on a base in Kharkiv region resulted in the death of 50 NATO military advisors. The strike, carried out using an Iskander Mike missile, targeted a temporary deployment point of Western trainers and also mercenaries, private military groups. The Russian Defense Ministry has released a video of the strike and issued a warning to Westerners present in Ukraine. Some of my key points: missile striking casualties. An Iskander Mike missile hit a base in the Kharkiv region. 50 NATO military advisors were killed. Please click on the link to the full report. Follow along. Thank you. Russian statement and video. Russia provided video evidence of the strike. A stern warning was issued to all Westerners in Ukraine. Number 3, additional strikes. The Nikolaev airport, set to host the F-16s, was also targeted. Number 4, foreign mercenaries. Foreign mercenaries were actively fighting alongside Ukrainian forces. Russia has reported significant casualties among these mercenaries. Warnings and legal status. The Russian Foreign Ministry has repeatedly warned foreign citizens against traveling to Ukraine under international humanitarian law. Mercenaries are not granted combatant or prisoner of war statuses. Interesting. Number 6, the mercenary statistics. Over 13,000 foreign mercenaries have arrived in Ukraine since the start of the conflict. Approximately 6,000 have been killed during this period. Additional key points from other sources. Missile striking casualties. An Iskander Mike missile struck a deployment center in the Kharkiv region. Approximately 50 Westerners, instructors, and mercenaries were killed. Video evidence of warning. We'll watch it in a second. The Russian Defense Ministry shared a video of the strike. Moscow improvised that any foreign military personnel in Ukraine are legitimate targets. Number 3, previous warnings. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, reiterated the lack of humanity for foreign instructors in Ukraine. The Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, reported concerns about French casualties in Ukraine. I've talked about that in a lot of my videos already, right? Historical context. Similar strikes on foreign personnel have occurred previously with significant casualties Russian President Putin highlighted the longstanding presence of Western military trainers in Ukraine under the guise of mercenaries. Interesting. I conclude the Russian missile strike on a base in Kharkiv region has resulted in significant Western casualties, highlighting the risks faced by foreign military personnel in Ukraine. The incident underscores the ongoing tensions and the dangers involved for those participating in this conflict. Interesting. We're just going to watch one video. So here it is. The Iskander strike on a building that is said to have housed foreign military instructors, right? It was in the town right there, was in the region, of the Kharkiv region. All right. So an important development. The Ukrainian foreign minister visits China. Ways to end the war will be discussed. Unusual journey. So the Ukrainian foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba. So the Ukrainian foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, is visiting China to discuss ways to end the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. This trip, which is at the invitation of Beijing, will involve talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on China's potential role in achieving peace and bilateral relations. Interesting. Here's some of my key points in some of this. So the visit details. The Ukrainian Foreign Minister will visit China from July 23rd through the 25th. Meetings with Chinese Foreign Minister focus on ending Russian aggression and China's role in achieving peace. So context and timing. The visit occurs nearly 29 months after Russia invades Ukraine. China and Russia announced an unconditional partnership shortly before the invasion. Number 3, China's position. China has not condemned the Russian invasion. China has supported the Russian economy during the war. The visit signals cautious engagement from Ukraine towards China. Number 4, the Kremlin's reaction. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov emphasized the importance of Russian relations with China, stressed the strategic partnership between Russia and China. Interesting, beautiful. All right, so conclusion. The visit of the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, to China highlights a significant diplomatic efforts to seek China's assistance in ending the war with Russia. Despite China's close ties with the Kremlin and its support of Russia, this trip reflects Ukraine's cautious yet strategic move to explore potential avenues for peace through diplomatic engagement with Beijing. Interesting, right? Interesting. Russia, Ukrainian drone raid on Rosneft oil refinery in Krasnodar. Watch video. So, a Ukrainian drone raid targeted that oil refinery right there you see on your screen, causing damage to the infrastructure. The fire caused by debris from a downed drone was controlled and extinguished, with no reported casualties. The refinery, frequently targeted since the war began, may have operational disruptions, though the extent is unclear. Russian air defense systems reportedly shot down 75 Ukrainian drones during the incident. So Ukraine has been very successful in attacking with drones. I've said that before. And we'll see right now. They have had a lot of success. So the drone raid damage. So the drone raid and damage. A Ukrainian drone raid targeted that oil refinery, right? Debris from the downed drone caused a fire. No casualties were reported. defense response. The Russian air defense systems destroyed 75 Ukrainian drones. Specific counts included 8 drones in one area, 47 in another, and 17 over the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, and 1 in Belgorod and some other regions of Ukraine. Ongoing target. So this refinery has been a frequent target of Ukraine airstrikes since 2022. Communication and reporting. Local officials communicated damage and response efforts via telegram. Russian authorities tend to limit disclosure of the full extent of damage from Ukrainian attacks. The Ukrainian drone raid on the oil refinery underscores the ongoing aerial conflict and the vulnerability of critical infrastructure in the region. While the immediate fire was contained without casualties, the raid highlights persistent threats and the significant defense measures deployed by the Russian forces to mitigate such attacks. Yeah, like I said, they're being successful with their drones. That is for sure. There's a few videos of the drones. All right. So here we go. So blackmail, right? So blackmail against Hungary and Slovakia. Ukraine closed the oil through the Druzhba pipeline. So blackmail against Hungary and Slovakia. Ukraine closed the oil canal through the Druzhba pipeline. Somewhat war in Europe. So Ukraine has halted the Druzhba pipeline, cutting off oil supplies to Hungary and Slovakia, significantly impacting their economies. The action violates Ukraine's obligations under the EU Association Agreement. The European Union's response has been passive, leading to accusations of orchestrated pressure by Brussels and Washington to force Hungary and Slovakia away from their peace efforts with Russia. Interesting. Some key points here. Pipeline closure. Ukraine closed the Druzhba pipeline, affecting oil supplies to Hungary and Slovakia. This closure breaches the EU Association Agreement and obligations. Economic and political impact. The halt has significant economic repercussions for Hungary and Slovakia. Both countries are committed to peace negotiations, making them potential targets of this move. I would say so, which I don't know why. Accusations of orchestrated pressure. There are claims that Brussels and Washington orchestrated this move to pressure Hungary and Slovakia. Ukraine and the EU are perceived as favoring the prolongation of the conflict for a victory over Russia. Interesting. EU's passive response. The EU has not acted against Ukraine's breach of an agreement, raising questions about its stance. Silence from the EU is seen as a tactical approval of Ukraine's actions, undermining confidence within the EU institutions. I would believe so. Political maneuvering. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been actively engaging in diplomacy for peace. We've talked about that. The European Commission announced additional financial aid for Ukraine, which includes contributions for Hungary and Slovakia. I conclude, Ukraine's closure of the Druzhba pipeline, which affects Hungary and Slovakia, highlights significant geopolitical and economic tensions within the EU. The EU's passive response raises concerns about its commitment to member states and suggests possible orchestration to maintain a hardline stance against Russia, quite possibly. The situation underscores the complex interplay of national interests and broader EU strategies and the ongoing conflict. Okay. So they want more blood in the West. Find 18-year-olds to fight the Russians. Ukrainians must recruit others. This was an interesting read, too. So Ukraine, right, is facing significant military challenges. We've talked about this before. As casualties are mounting, leading to increased pressure to recruit younger soldiers. President Zelensky is set to introduce bills to extend martial law and general conscription. Listen attentively. The move reflects the dire situation on the front lines and the need for fresh troops. Key points: extension of martial law and conscription. President Zelensky will introduce bills to extend martial law and general conscription. The Ukrainian parliament is expected to vote to extend martial law until November 9th, 2024. Interesting. Pay attention to dates here. Martial law is currently in effect until August 11th, 2024. Recruitment and conscription challenges. This is increasing pressure to conscript younger individuals, specifically targeting 18 to 20-year-olds. Interesting. Punitive measures, including asset confiscations, are being considered for those who refuse to update their information at local conscription offices. So they're going to start taking their stuff, their assets, probably cars, homes. Wow, think about that. Public reaction and also internal pressures. The extension of martial law and conscription efforts has caused significant public uproar. The situation highlights the division in Ukrainian society between those fighting on the front lines and those leading relatively everyday lives. International perspective. A former high-ranking American diplomat in NATO suggested that Ukraine must recruit younger soldiers, emphasizing that historically wars are not fought by older individuals. Interesting. I conclude. Ukraine is under severe strain as it faces mounting casualties in the conflict with Russia. In response to President Zelensky in pushing for extended martial law and broader conscription targeting younger recruits, this move underscores the critical need for fresh troops and reflects the increasing desperation within Ukrainian military strategy. Public dissent and the stark reality of the ongoing war continue to shape the nation's response and resilience. Well, this, saying objective to the sources, but I think it sounds a little crazy, right? But we lay out the facts, right? Sad. Really, really is sad. All right, so the EU state issues 6.5 billion ultimatum to Ukraine. Hungary is moving to push Kiev for its blockade of oil deliveries from Russia. So I kind of added this in because I'm going to tie it all in here in a second. There's another article that's coming as well with some other sources. But Ukraine's actions, right? Ukraine halted the flow of Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline to Hungary and Slovakia. The stated reason was sanctions against Russia's energy company, impacting 30 to 40% of Hungary and Slovakia's oil needs. Hungary's response. Hungary announced it would block 6.5 billion of EU funds earmarked for Ukraine until oil transit resumes. Listen attentively. The Hungarian foreign minister criticized Ukraine's move, calling it a threat to energy security, inconsistent with Ukraine's EU aspirations. Broader EU reactions. Hungary's stance could affect EU-wide funds, with Poland expressing concerns over losing the billion needed for losing the 2 billion needed for military modernization. EU foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell and other EU members have been silent on Ukraine's aggressive measures, despite the tensions it caused within the EU. Underlining tensions, Ukraine's decision is seen as a strategy to pressure Hungary, which has resisted supporting Ukraine's military and has pushed for peace negotiations with Russia. Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland previously aided Ukraine by providing electricity to stabilize its energy systems. Interesting. Now I'm going to tie this in. Connection to Ukraine's recruitment and conscriptions. The tensions between Ukraine and Hungary and Slovakia over the oil pipeline and EU funds reflect Ukraine's broader, intense internal and external pressures. Ukraine's actions to cut off oil flow and the subsequent diplomatic fallout highlight the critical need for resources and alliances as it battles Russia. Analysis: military and energy security. Ukraine's internal struggle to maintain military efforts and recruit younger soldiers parallels its external efforts to secure necessary energy, resources, and political support. The stoppage of oil supplies demonstrates Ukraine's strategic leverage and risk alienating key EU partners. Diplomatic pressures. Hungary's blocking of EU funds as retaliation shows the fragility of support within the EU, influenced by each nation's immediate needs and political stances. The conscription challenges within Ukraine underscore the desperation of resource constraints driving such international maneuvers. The impact on EU unity. Ukraine's actions and the response from Hungary and Slovakia could deepen divisions within the EU, complicating collective efforts to support Ukraine against Russia. The interplay between military conscription, energy security, and diplomatic relations highlights the interconnectedness of Ukraine's internal and external crises. The halt of oil through the Druzhba pipeline and the resulting diplomatic fallout with Hungary and Slovakia exemplify Ukraine's multifaceted pressures and its war efforts. The situation underscores the urgent need for resources and support, mirroring the domestic challenges of conscription and maintaining military strength against Russia. The interdependence of energy security and diplomatic alliance is crucial in understanding Ukraine's strategies and the broader geopolitical implications. Well, it sounds like the EU is falling apart, and as we get closer, because we're almost done, right? And we're going to see where Turkey and Greece are having problems, and NATO could also be in trouble as well. We got to keep picking this apart, right? Next, I came across this, and I did some digging too. EU may not be right fit for Hungary, member state. So it's interesting. So here is the EU's collective position. Support for Ukraine. The EU has consistently provided military and financial support to Ukraine in response to Russia's invasion. The support is a defensive measure to uphold Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Sanctions on Russia. The EU has imposed extensive sanctions on Russia to pressure Moscow into ceasing its aggression. These sanctions are part of the broader strategy to weaken Russia's ability to sustain its military operations in Ukraine. Diplomatic efforts. While supporting Ukraine militarily and financially, the EU also engages in diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. However, these efforts are often criticized as insignificant or inconsistent. Hungary's divergence, right? Hungary's peace initiative. The Prime Minister, Viktor Orban of Hungary, has undertaken independent diplomatic efforts, meeting with leaders from Russia, China, and other key players to promote a peaceful resolution. This approach contrasts with the EU's collective strategy, which focuses more on supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. Internal criticism. Hungary's actions have been criticized within the EU. The Finnish foreign minister and other EU leaders have expressed concerns that Hungary's position and actions do not align with the EU's official stance. The European Parliament condemned Orban's visit to Moscow as contrary to the EU treaties and policies. EU's official line. The EU's official stance is not strictly pro-war, but rather pro-defense of Ukraine. The bloc's support of Ukraine is meant to help the country defend itself against Russian aggression, with the ultimate goal of a peaceful resolution that respects Ukraine's sovereignty. Hungary's independent approach. Hungary's attempt to broker peace independently highlights a significant divergence from the EU's collective approach. Hungary's stance is more aligned with the immediate peace negotiations. even if it means engaging directly with Russia, which the broader EU views as potentially undermining collective efforts. Implications of divergence. This divergence in Hungary's action creates tensions within the EU. While Hungary advocates for peace talks, the EU's broader strategy involves military support for Ukraine to pressure Russia into negotiations from a position of strength. This internal conflict illustrates differing priorities and strategies within the EU regarding the Ukraine conflict. The EU's position involves supporting Ukraine through military and financial aid, while seeking a diplomatic resolution. Hungary's independent peace mission, criticized by other EU members, underscores the complex dynamics within the bloc. The EU is committed to Ukraine's defense and sovereignty. Still, member states like Hungary improvise immediate peace talks, reflecting a broader debate on the best path to resolving the conflict. Interesting. So Israel, F-35s, F-15s, F-16s pound Houthi targets in Yemen. Video of the attack. Israel carried out 20 raids. So the Israeli Air Force executed 20 airstrikes on Houthi-controlled parts of Hodeidah in western Yemen on Saturday. The strikes targeted large cranes, fuel depots, and energy infrastructure. The Outstretched arm operation was conducted solely by Israel, with prior notification given to the U.S. Central Command SITCOM. The operation involved F-35s, F-15s, and F-16 fighter jets, and reconnaissance and aerial refueling aircraft, marking one of the IAF's most distant missions. The attack significantly impacted the Houthi economy and their ability to receive Iranian weapons. So target and execution. The IIF targeted the port of Hodeidah, focusing on cranes, fuel depots, and energy infrastructure. The operation involved F-35s, F-15s, and F-16s fighter jets supported by surveillance and aerial refueling aircraft. Operation details. The operation was named Outstretched Arm and was one of the IAF's most distant missions, approximately 1,800 kilometers from Israel. The strikes were conducted solely by Israel, right? Talked about that. Impact and consequences. The destruction of the fuel depots dealt a significant blow to the Houthi economy. The targeted cranes prevented the import of Iranian weapons, which have been used against Israel and other targets in the Red Sea. Israel anticipates potential retaliation from the Houthis and other Iran-supported groups in the region. Talk about proxies. So the Israeli airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen represent a significant military operation aimed at disrupting the flow of Iranian weapons to the Houthis and crippling their economy capabilities. Conducted without direct U.S. involvement, so they say, but with prior notification. The operation highlights Israel's proactive stance in countering threats from regional enemies. The strategic targeting of the infrastructure critical to Houthi economy and logistics underscores Israel's focus on long-term disruption of enemy capabilities. At the same time, the anticipation of retaliatory attacks suggests heightened readiness and ongoing regional tensions. Here's a quick video of what they blew up.
من أجل غزة لهم سر هذه بوارش شكلها. لا 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 ولا جماعة الخير طيران قصف لطيران العدو البريطاني الإسرائيلي على محافظة الحديدة.
All right, as we move on, the Indian Navy frigate, INS, on fire, sailors even missing. So, the Indian Navy's frigate suffered severe damage when a fire broke out during repairs at the Bombay shipyard on July 21st, 2024. The fire caused the ship to tilt, and it is currently sinking. While most personnel have been accounted for, one sailor is still missing. An official investigation has been launched to determine the cause of the accident. The incident details: the fire occurred on the evening of July 21st, 2024. During repair works at the Bombay shipyard, the fire caused significant damage, leading to the ship tilting and eventually sinking. Response and casualties: the ship's crew brought the fire under control with assistance from Bombay shipyard firefighters and other ships in the port by the morning of July 22nd, 2024. All personnel aboard were accounted for except one sailor, from whom searches are ongoing. Ship details: the ship was commissioned on April 14th, 2000. It is the first built class. It's the first to be built with guided missile frigates. Interesting. The ship is designed for multi-role operations, including anti-submarine and anti-service and anti-war warfare. The official investigation has been initiated to determine the cause of the fire and to look at the damages, to assess the damages. The fire aboard the ship represents a significant loss to the Indian Navy, given the ship's multi-role capabilities and strategic importance. The incident underscores the inherent risk of ship repairs and the necessity of rigorous safety protocols. The ongoing investigation will be crucial in uncovering the cause, preventing future occurrences. The missing sailor status remains a concern as efforts continue to locate them. Interesting. A lot of espionage stuff going on. So that's why some of these stories are interesting. So, Navy helicopter fails after private maintenance. Then Diaz confirms incident. So this is Greece. This is talking about the Greece military. What does it say about what does it say about the serious incident? So Greek Minister of National Defense, Nikos Dendias, confirmed a serious incident involving a Navy helicopter that experienced severe vibrations after private maintenance. The problem, identified as a failure to reposition the propeller correctly, did not result in any immediate harm, but the matter is under investigation. Dendias assured that the maintenance is conducted with strict adherence to technical standards. So the incident details: the helicopter, after ongoing private maintenance, experienced strong vibrations during its initial flights in early June. Technicians discovered that the propeller had been incorrectly repositioned, leading to the malfunction. The helicopter returned safely to its base without dramatic consequences. Minister Dendias confirmed the incident and stated that the issue involved deviations from prescribed technical specifications by a private maintenance entity. Investigation insurance: the incident is under investigation to determine the cause and ensure accountability. Dendias emphasized that all maintenance follow strict specifications and is conducted according to scientific and technical standards. The incident highlights concerns about the quality and private maintenance services for military equipment. I would say so. That's what I'm concluding. While the immediate safety was not compromised, the deviation for technical standards warrants a thorough investigation. Ensuring adherence to maintenance protocols is crucial to avoid similar issues and maintain the reliability of military assets. This is interesting. So all militaries have problems with their equipment, right? I just thought it was an interesting story. So as we get ready to close out, like I said, we're going to talk about Athens is searched and Turkey escalates. Violations and gathering of warships south of chaos. Turkey is enforcing the Turkish-Libyan memorandum on the ground. So here we go. Tensions have escalated between Greece and Turkey in the southern Aegean Sea, particularly south of Chaos, due to Turkish warships deploying the response to Greek NAVTACs. Remember, we talked about NAVTACs before, concerning an Italian ship laying cables for electrical interconnection. Project between Crete and Cyprus. Turkey has issued an anti-nav tax, claiming part of the area has its continental shelf. We talked about this before, and conducted airspace violations. The Greek Navy is on high alert with its ships and Coast Guard monitoring the situation, while the Greek government seeks a diplomatic resolution. A Greek nav tax and Turkish response. Greece issued a nav tax for the Italian ship that was working on the Great Sea Interconnector GSI project, right? Turkey countered with an anti-nav tax and claimed the area south of Carpathos is part of its continental shelf. We talked about that before. Military deployments. Turkey deployed multiple warships, including frigates and conducted airspace violations with helicopters and UAVs in response. Greece deployed its frigate, some of their frigates. Diplomatic efforts. Greece is pursuing a diplomatic approach to de-escalate the situation. Greek government stance. Some government representatives in Greece stress that while Greece seeks dialogue, it remains firm on its sovereignty and rights within its territorial waters. So the Turkish-Libyan memorandum. The situation is also influenced by Turkey's attempt to enforce the Turkish-Libyan memorandum in the area. Conclusion. The South Aegean Sea is currently a hotspot of military and diplomatic activity, with both Greece and Turkey deploying naval forces and engaging aerial maneuvers. While Greece seeks to resolve the tensions diplomatically, it remains crazy and it remains vigilant and prepared for further escalations. The international community's attention is drawn to the region due to the strategic and geopolitical implications of the ongoing dispute. And both these countries are both in NATO. So this is interesting. But I'm going to close out. Hope you enjoyed the updates. Right. We all know Joe Biden has shown back up, right? He's been seen, right? I try not to talk a lot about that type of news because while everybody is distracted, there's other stuff going on, right? World War III is definitely around the corner, right? Thank you all again for following. Love you all so much. I'm out.